Hello, everyone. Good morning. And thank you so much for joining Nicole and myself today. We're really excited to be here with you. And today we're going to be discussing the topic of how a human virtual assistant can have a positive effect on your business. So this topic is really important and really timely as AI is becoming much more relevant in our everyday lives. I'm sure it's something that you're hearing about almost on a daily basis now. And we really believe that AI is powerful, but that having a human touch and empathy is extremely important. And we're going to cover that in this webinar. And we're also going to be sharing some tested statistics to give you the measurable effects of having a virtual assistant and how that can help you and your business. So as I mentioned, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Virtual Assist USA, and I also have with me Nicole Gallicchio-Elz, who is our COO, our Chief Operating Officer. And the two of us have a combined over 30 years of experience in the outsourcing industry and in operations and business management. And so we've also been managing and running this business now for about 15 years. And so we have lots of insights on how the industry has changed and certainly how technology has given us opportunities to improve and make things more efficient. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes. So, like Danielle said, we're going to be talking about how a human VA can save and essentially then in turn make you money, decrease employee turnover, increase productivity, build relationships, resulting in higher work incentives. So, I'm just going to dive into a statistic right away. So, virtual assistants can save a business up to 78 in operating costs. Now why? Right? Well, there is no need to hire. Recruiting, posting jobs, doing interviews, this can cost thousands. Um, if you decide to go the virtual assistant route, you will not have to have another employee in your office. You may have less office space, or you may not need office space at all. This can save your business thousands of dollars a month in rent. Along with that, if you're not hiring an employee, you're not responsible then for all of the overhead. You aren't paying PTO, you're not paying holiday hours or any medical benefits. And this saves a business a ton of money. Another cost is that you're not responsible for your VA's equipment. You don't have to purchase computers, laptops, phones, or anything else that an employee would require if you are in office, or even if you are hiring an employee that is not in office, right? Especially as far as workman's comp goes and different liabilities, that comes along with all of the overhead of having just employee in general, whether it's in office or not. So, with all of that being said, it is clear that some higher earning companies have utilized these benefits, and 35% of them are using a virtual assistant. I know that we have clients that, even though they may have employees that maybe work production or in office for different productivity purposes, their administrative or their executive assistants are still using a virtual assistant company in order to save in all of these different operating costs.
And so let's talk about turnover a little bit. It's something that every business owner has dealt with. Certainly, it is something that is very costly for organizations. Um, the direct costs associated with employee turnover include recruiting and onboarding, training, potential severance payments, and paid PTO, depending on your individual state laws. But there's also a lot of indirect costs, like productivity loss, decreased morale among the remaining employees, and of course, just the time and effort that it takes you to fill vacant positions. And so what we've seen is that high turnover rates really strain the financial resources and really negatively impact the overall profitability of your company. And also what we've seen is that hiring a virtual assistant can improve your employee turnover rate. So it can decrease your employee turnover. There's a study that was recently done by a Stanford professor and showed that investing in a virtual assistant cuts the attrition of your business by 50%. And so this study researched 249 individuals from all different backgrounds backgrounds. And they found that companies that hired VAs that were working in their own homes for their own company, making their own schedules, resulted in happier workers, a better work-life balance. And therefore, that's what they contributed, reducing that attrition to. And this also really attests to the fact that VAs are much more likely to stick around and build better relationships with you and your company than the average in-house employee, because they have sort of more skin in the game, if you will. Another advantage to this is something that's not talked about as much, but if you're using a virtual assistant through an agency like Virtual Assist USA, for example, and there is the case of turnover, the agency takes care of that for you. So the agency absorbs all of those costs, the time, the effort, and you're given a new virtual assistant almost instantly. There's no downtime on your end, and so that's definitely a lot more efficient in that way. And that's also something that, when you think about turnover, it can make it, when you're having constant turnover, it can make it really challenging to attract and retain top talent. If you have a reputation for high turnover, that can really deter prospective candidates from joining your organization and just make positions harder to fill. And we all know at a time right now, positions are very hard to fill. So to address these issues, if you want to reduce turnover rate, definitely consider hiring a virtual assistant and just implementing that as an employee engagement tool in your business. I think that overall, with just another positive work environment, and of course, competitive compensation, will definitely foster employee satisfaction and loyalty and can make a big difference for you. And so typically when we have clients that are looking for virtual assistants, they're coming to us because they have too many tasks to complete. They don't have enough time to complete them all. And they just don't have enough hours in the day. And so their business ends up at a standstill. And really what we found is that hiring a human virtual assistant is a very simple solution to this, because the statistics show that a virtual assistant can increase your productivity by 13%. Important to note that this is just an average number. Some companies can certainly see a higher productivity increase as well. And this is a result of being able to delegate tasks in a variety of areas, tasks that as the CEO or a leader in your company, you shouldn't be spending hours on. Something that I often tell prospective clients when I'm talking to them is that just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because you can complete a task, you can do your bookkeeping, you can create social media posts, you can handle customer service issues, that does not mean that is where your time is best spent. Your time is best spent generating revenue for your business, thinking about the vision, doing planning, sort of the overall trajectory of your business, and not spending time on those administrative tasks. And so as we say here, with a variety of resources, it's really important to note that each VA has a different background and they have different platform knowledge and they have different experience and knowledge about different industries, best practices, etc. And so with the intensive process of pairing a virtual assistant with a client, we're ensuring as a virtual assistant agency that you're getting the exact help that you need. So this results in a virtual assistant that is an expert or has an advanced skill set in the area that you need help with, and they can get tasks done a lot faster than you might be able to because this is their area of expertise. They also might be able to do things cheaper or in a more efficient way. Maybe they can share ways to automate some of your processes. So there's a whole host of benefits to that piece. And just to mention finally with that virtual assistants, because this is what they do day in and day out, 40 hours a week, they have a variety of resources. And so if there's an area that you're not familiar with, but you want to explore, maybe it is AI as we're talking about, maybe it's how can AI help me generate better content for my business, then your virtual assistant has that knowledge and can help you understand how to utilize different platforms, different technologies to improve your business in a number of areas.
So I'm going to give a very specific example of how a VA can increase your day-to-day productivity. Statistics show that executives spend 16 hours a week on day-to-day tasks. These may include scheduling your meetings, responding to emails, social media, planning a business trip, posting, engaging, etc. These are the monotonous day-to-day things that are not urgent, right? They are just moving through the motions. If you're working an average of 40 hours a week, that's 40% of your entire work week. Now imagine if you got those 16 hours back to make sales, like Danielle said, or generate things that generate revenue. This would increase your productivity. It would increase your bottom line significantly. So hiring a VA to delegate these tasks to, you're gaining back all those hours. And it's really important to then use that extra time in order to move your business forward in a strategic way that you're not making all of these just one-off tasks, checking your box, going down, okay, did I do this today? Did I do that? Did I check my calendar? Did I respond to emails? Right. And your virtual assistant may also have ways to streamline these things where then maybe they're putting an automated calendar link where everyone is scheduling with you via your calendar link. They are then getting automated emails. And now your VA has completely taken this off both of your plates and you can delegate something else to them, growing this relationship that you have with your virtual assistant. I think it's also important to know that it does take time and patience to learn how to delegate, learn how to work with your virtual assistant in a way that is important that you've done it right the first time, right? Creating Loom videos, creating tutorials. That way it is a seamless transition, whether you're using a virtual assistant or employee or someone working remotely, that they can easily take over. And now you have created this space where you are able to easily just delegate your tasks, and you've learned how to best delegate and create these operating procedures for someone else to seamlessly take over and keep these things off of your plate in general.
And as we jump into this slide, before we talk a little bit about how we pick VAs to fit your personal style and how they can work with you, I do want to just mention, as we're talking about AI and how they can, work with virtual assistants. Of course, I believe that human virtual assistants are still the superior choice, but AI has made a lot of remarkable advancements, and there are still a lot of distinct qualities between the two. And really what we're seeing a lot of is clients wanting to use a blend of a human virtual assistant and AI. And so, like we talked about in the beginning, really what's going to set a human virtual assistant apart is simply their ability to have empathy, emotional intelligence, understand emotions, read between the lines, all of that. And when you're seeking individual results or there's complex situations, obviously a human virtual assistant is going to shine through with that. But AI systems are really efficient at executing predefined tasks. And so while they do struggle with more complex scenarios, problem solving, that sort of thing, AI can be helpful. And if you can get over sort of the security and privacy considerations and talk through that with your virtual assistant, and how you can protect that information and ensure things are kept confidential, there's definitely a tremendous benefit to leveraging AI with your human virtual assistant. So for example, something that AI can do is analyze a large amount of data and information really quickly, almost instantly, and can provide some valuable insights. And your virtual assistant your human virtual assistant can then take that information and data, review that, and make actual recommendations and set up strategic planning, for example. And so that's something that, again, when you're using it in a blended situation, there's a tremendous benefit there. And of course, you're still ensuring that your customers and yourself and the other stakeholders in your business still have the human touch that they desire. And that leads me to talking here about stronger relationships. And so something that we do when we talk about the human touch is that we don't just assign you a virtual assistant based on who is next up in line and who needs some work and who's on the bench. We really take a look at your personal communication style, your work behavior style. Something that Nicole has taken initiative on as our COO is investing in DISC training. And so our VAs go through DISC assessments. Nicole has designed our onboarding process to ask some questions about work behavior and work style that we can take that information and match you up based on those styles. So not someone that has the exact same style as you, but someone that has a complementary style to you, which is an important distinction to make. So for example, if you are someone who is really big picture and you are a great visionary, but you have trouble with the details, obviously you don't want a virtual assistant that is the same way. You would want a virtual assistant that would complement your style, that would be very detail oriented into the nitty gritty processes and process improvement and development of those things. And so that's really what Nicole has designed our onboarding process to do there. And that of course helps with the turnover because you have a better understanding of working with one another. The VA is incentivized to work with you. They are stakeholders in your business. They're committed to you and your work. And then again, finally, we do have that empathy and understanding that we've talked about. That's really important because your VA is going to understand that. And so, ultimately the human touch on your business is really truly unmatched in this sense, especially if you're doing it the right way with this matching style.
I would just piggyback off what you said, Danielle, about giving someone a virtual assistant who is complementary. It may not be complementary. It may be someone who has the same working style as you, but it's dependent on those tasks that you are looking for. And I think it's often difficult if we match someone with someone who's complementary. The remote working environment, right? One-on-one in a virtual realm when you're not the same behavioral styles, it takes time. If you've never done this before, if you've always hired yourself, that you've always gone with that gut feeling. I hired somebody because we had great talks and we aligned, right? But you probably aligned because your behavioral styles were similar, but that may not work out in a working relationship because you need someone, again, like Danielle said, who's maybe detail oriented, who is proactive, who gives deliverables and is task oriented. It is important to give that time. If you have been that habitual, I hire people that I work well with. You may notice, well, why isn't this person chatty? Why aren't they talking about personal things? You have to understand that their behavioral style is different, and that's what's going to get results. So I would always suggest give it time. If this is something that you're new to, if you're looking to use a virtual assistant and you are paired with someone who is opposite of you, it does take a little bit to switch your brain mode to think, okay, this is done on purpose. The goal is to make X amount of sales. The goal is to get these projects off my plate that I have been dying to move to someone else, or I've had these on the back burner forever. I want to get these done. So you're going to want to be open and flexible to building a stronger relationship to maybe someone with a behavioral style that you have never interacted with before or worked with before. So we do have a bunch of resources for you to use. Danielle and I host a podcast, Not Your Average CEO Lifeline. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. We talk about how to delegate quite often. We talk about, the last podcast was on organic marketing. We have a lot of different resources there if you are interested in how to work better with a virtual assistant or what maybe topics to delegate to them. We also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to called Business Bites. There we have all updates on different tech that is changing. Like we've talked about, AI is changing rapidly. So we myself and one of my assistants handpick all of the topics that go into Business Bites strategically with the idea that you're working with a virtual assistant in mind and that you will need access to a lot of these different platforms and new integrations that come about. So you can subscribe to that on our website. And of course, we have our blog that we personally write to target different headlines that have come about or different tactics that you can use to better work with your virtual assistant. Well, thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, you can email us at support@virtualassistusa.com. Thank you so much.